What? What's up, YouTube? I can't tell if this is working. YouTube has changed their format. If you can hear me, throw something in the chat bar so I can see what exactly is going on. This is new format, new everything here. Alfred, my man. That's right. I'll dab on it. I'm excited. What is up, everyone? It's been a while since I've done this. It has been a while. Give everybody kind of an update where I've been. Last week was my daughter's birthday, so dealing with that. She turned 2. Congratulations to her. The weekend before that was Easter. Family was in town, so had to deal with that. So finally, I am back in this. What's up, Judy Beverage? Ray, good to see you, sir, to the Green Dock of Hawaii. Wayne, Philip, Drew, Thomas. I do not recognize your name. It's good seeing you join in today. Paul's Prime Cuts, good to see you. Ryan Quick, good to see you. Jim Beverage, that's right. Shh, we can't talk about that. We can't talk about that, Jim Beverage. It looks like the camera is cloudy. I don't know if I have some over the lens. I think that was it. Maybe not. I don't know. I think this is just a bad camera on my laptop. Turf Nerd, what is up? David Watkins. Can y'all hear me okay? I'm looking at the microphone settings here, and it doesn't look like it is registering on the microphone really well. So I can't tell what's going on. I don't know. My Lawn Forum hat is in the living room right now. I'm in my room hiding from the children, so that's where it is. We were taking some family pictures today. My wife would not let me wear a hat during the pictures, so hence I'm not wearing it. And usually I wear a hat. So, I feel weird without a hat. My hair's falling out at an alarming rate, so it is what it is. So for those of you that are just tuning in, Drew, every week I do this show. I kind of open the floor to questions. I don't know the answer to every question. I've got people in the chat to help me out with this. Ray is above and beyond where I'm at with my turfgrass career, and he always has lots of good input. So I will start that now that I'm going to open the floor up to any questions y'all have. Please feel free to ask. Again, my background, I have a fertilizer and weed control company here in Knoxville, Tennessee. That's about it. That's my background. No, I do all kinds of things. We can talk about schooling and stuff like that, but really what it comes down to is that I learned everything I learned pretty much in the field. So here I am sharing that information. So as the questions start to roll in, I like these. Philip Cagle, he's a friend from the Lawn Forum at thelawnforum.com. Best herbicide combo for a renovation. Need to remove Bermuda and Zoysia. Philip, there's a couple of ways to do this. If you're going for Bermuda, I would look at Fusilade and glyphosate combined. So that'd be fluazepop and glyphosate as a combined application and multiple applications at that. For the Zoysia grass, I do not have a lot of experience running Pilex on Zoysia. That is something I plan on doing this year, is more Pilex on Zoysia as a control method. I actually got my first call about removing Zoysia grass from Fescue, and for the first time, I could not convince them to keep their Zoysia grass. So my whole preparation in this is to use Pilex on the Zoysia grass. I've yet to do it, and I'm curious to see how that goes. Rich, welcome aboard. 40 miles south of Chicago. What to use to get rid of purple violets in my yard? My yard is fescue, Scott. Typically, I recommend something containing triclopyr and fluroxypyr or 2,4-D in triclopyr. There's products out there like Crossbow, Momentum FX2, Battleship 3, Escalade 2. Typically, you're going to get better control when you make your repeat applications in the fall. Typically, you will have to make repeat applications. There's other products that you can throw into that mix. For instance, you can run triclopyr and quinclorac would be a good combination. However, as each of those products is standalone products, typically are not enough. Triclopyr would be the one that I would say typically would be enough. But you tend to get a better kill by mixing two herbicides with two different modes of actions to increase your overall efficacy. Hope that answered your question. What about Tenacity on Zoysia? I do not think Tenacity is going to have the power to bring down Zoysia grass. That is just a thought. Now, again, I've yet to do it, so I'm just speaking purely on speculation right now. I honestly do not know, Drew, but I would guess that Tenacity does not have it in it to take out Zoysia grass. What wind speed do you stop spraying in? Joe, it depends on the material I'm spraying. I do not like to spray in windy situations because there's always tomorrow. I don't live in the Midwest. Those guys have to deal with that all the time. Typically, most labels will state the restrictions in somewhere in there if there is one. Some labels are going to leave it up to complete and total interpretation. That's another reality of it. Me personally, you know, when we start creeping into that 10-mile-an-hour range and I'm applying low volume, typically I'm going to call it. If I'm applying higher volume, say if I'm running 3 or 5 gallons per 1,000 square feet and I'm running relatively low pressure, then I don't have really any major concern spraying in 10, 15 mile per hour winds. So really it comes down to comfort, experience, and, you know, making sure that what you're spraying is actually what you're spraying. So there's not really a set answer on that. It's really up to interpretation. Power out. Your power's out, Rob Hawkins. You having some strong storms up there, are you? I hate that for you. Ray said tenacity. Tenacity is what he uses for zoysia removal from Bermuda or seashore past bound. There you go. It is powerful enough to remove zoysia grass. Ray, how many applications do you typically have to do on zoysia grass with your tenacity in order to get complete and total control on that? LaRue says thoughts on RGS Air 8 staining concrete. LaRue, I do not have issues with Air 8 staining concrete. I really don't have issues with RGS staining concrete. If it is newly poured, choking here. If it is newly poured, you may run into issues with freckling on from the RGS. But typically after a rain or two, it goes away. Your best bet is just keep it off concrete. But yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of issues with it. So there you go. 2 to 3 applications. Watch for it next year and apply again as needed. There we go. There we go. That is for tenacity on zoysia grass removal. It's interesting. I did not know that. I may play with that as well. Robert McNamara says, if chickweed and wild violet have come up, is it too late for pre-emergent? No, sir, Robert. And here's the reason why. Is because most of our spring pre-emergents applied are not designed to prevent chickweed in particular. While violets are going to be perennial, they have an underground tuber system where they may appear to have died over winter. Sometimes they will overwinter above surface and then have that flush of growth come spring. So while violets cannot be prevented by a pre-emergent, Robert, to prevent chickweed, typically those applications need to be done in the fall. Chickweed being a dicot. It is not typically controlled super well, especially in cool season grasses. Buy something like a prodiamine. You may get a little better control preventatively from dithiopyr, your dimension. You would probably get your best preventative control would be, a late fall application of isoxaben, also known as Gallery. So no, if you already have chickweed and wild violet here, is definitely not too late for pre-emergent. Colonel Corn, what is up, my man? What is up? Finally getting some rain, over an inch of rain. Made some serious ponds. Curious to see how well it percolates since applying the GCF products. I'd be curious too. I would be curious too. I know we got a substantial amount of rain. However, it tends to move through my area pretty quickly because it all drains back towards that creek. So let me know how that goes. I am curious. Tenacity and Progress at the fumicate is what I would use in cool season grasses. Progress is damaging to zoysia through a different mode of action. There we go. I actually have some at the fumicate, so that may be something I give that a whirl. I was going to run Pilex, but I don't know. I do not know. Trent Burns, what's up? What's up, man? How are you, Trent? Good to hear from you. I believe you and I were talking just a little earlier today. Philip Cagle was afraid of having to use glyphosate, Flazophop, Tenacity, and Pilex altogether. That would be a pretty nasty mix. Philip, I will tell you that if anyone has the tenacity, no pun intended, to apply that mix, that would be Ray. In fact, there's a chance Ray may have actually applied that mix. I don't know. Let's see here. Thomas, how are you, sir? I don't recognize your name. Is this your first time tuning into the live show? Ryan Quick, when would you say it's too late to apply landscape bed pre-emergent like Snapshot? Ryan, you got to look at your germination points. So, up until you're reaching, I'd say that soil temperature range of, 55. Well, okay. Really, when you're talking about landscape bed pre-emergence, it's never too late to apply. Get it out when you can get it out, because anything that comes up before then, just round up it out at the time of your pre-emergent application. So for bed pre's, it's not necessarily as time sensitive if you can apply it at the same time you apply your Roundup application, assuming you're using Roundup. So there you go. I think I have smut grass recommendations for killing it. I do not know how to get rid of smut grass off the top of my head. If I had to guess, Colonel Corn, off the top of my head, I'm going to say it would be a Celsius plus Revolver mix. And that is going to be about all I got. I'm going to do a quick Google search here, because these are some pretty intense questions here. I'm not used to being asked about all these bizarre weeds. Smut grass, perennial grass pastures, control with herbicides. I've dealt with a fair amount of carpet grass when I was in Georgia. Smut grass, I don't know how it relates to carpet grass. Let's see here. We got atrazine being applied. We got MSMA. Obviously, that's not going to work. And in your hybrid Bermuda grass, I would not recommend atrazine as an application either, especially at this time of year. So, yeah, I'm not seeing a whole lot of control there. Aside from atrazine and or MSMA, and we do not have the MSMA component. So I'm sorry, I do not have a whole lot of information for you there. CTU Gangsta, what's up, man? How are you, sir? Let's see. How do you get rid of wild onion? 2,4-D would be a good shot for your wild onions. 2,4-D works really well. What is your turf type, CTU Gangsta? Because if you're in warm season turf, something like Metsulfuron methyl plus 2,4-D is going to give you a really, really excellent, strong systemic control. So there you go. Wanting to vertical mow Bermuda this summer. Will this affect my prodiamine application I did in March? Jonathan, there is potential. I will tell you that I typically do not have issues with my pre-emergent breaking down through something like a verticut. Now, it depends on the depth that you actually do your verticutting. So, you know, if you're verticutting at 2 to 4 inches, obviously that's going to have more of an agitation effect than it would be if you're, you know, basically scarifying at, you know, a 1/2 inch or even less, 1/4 of an inch. So really it all comes into depth, and it also comes down to the overall rate of prodiamine that you put down. Did you put down a 1/2 rate with anticipating getting down another application of it? So there's a lot that can go into that. But short answer, easy answer, will it have a major effect on your prodiamine application? Probably not. And the reason being is that assuming that the verticut will actually increase the density that from the remnants of your prodiamine application plus the increase in density should lead to a little bit more of a natural crowding out for the potential of your crabgrass. There you go. Second show, I was right, wasn't I, Thomas? That's not often. If I were to have SMA, when would be the best time to treat tall fescue Firdaus grass? It'd be when it's actively growing, May, June, July time frame. Thomas. Smutgrass, Syncor, and Tenacity. There you go. There you go. Jacob Pote, how are you, my man? Mark Macchione, what's up, dude? I'm glad you liked the recent Milo video. Those that did not get to watch it, did a video about the science behind Milorganite. Obviously, I don't have any issues with Milorganite. I think it's fine. I think it's a start. It's a great way to get someone easily excited about lawn care. Because you see the results from Milorganite and you're like, oh, I get it now. I get why having a nice yard is so addictive. And then from there, you can build upon the results you get from Milorganite. It's a great intro to really fall in love with lawn care. So there you go. It looks like I missed one up here about bucket tests. Bucket tests are coming along well. I'm kind of under lock and key with everything that's going on with that, but bucket tests are going great. Thank you for asking. Are anything to get Foxtail out? Peg Junk, what part of the country are you in? Because typically it is way too early for you to be seeing Foxtail. Foxtail is the last of the grassy weeds you typically see, Foxtail and crowsfoot grass. And the reason being is that it germinates at extremely high soil temperatures, even higher than goosegrass. So likely what you're seeing is little barley. I don't remember where you're at, but little barley is something that is actually at seed right now or is getting close to seeding right now, and it has a foxtail looking seed on it. If you want to shoot me a picture, thegrassfactor@gmail.com, I will confirm whether or not that actually is foxtail or little barley for you. If it is little barley, you're going to be looking at a product called metsulfuron methyl to get control. Does a really good job of controlling it. Our first year, we're taking classes from OSU in Oklahoma later this year. We'll be applying next year. Been following Watch You for a long time. Thanks for all the content. Hey, Acme, I really appreciate it, sir. I'm glad I could help. I really am. It means a lot. And, you know, being able to see you get to go out there and grow a successful business, that's what it's all about. That is what it's all about. Okay, CTU Gangsta is dealing with tall fescue. Yeah, man. Yeah, 2,4-D or a 2,4-D fluroxapyr mix. So anything like 4-speed, 3-way, whatever. And typically to get better control of wild onions, you have to cut the surface tension of your actual material. So lower volumes with higher rates of surfactant on the high end of a rate of surfactant. So if you have a range of a 0.5% by volume to a full % by volume, run it at 1% by volume. That would be the high rate of your surfactant, and do it in a low volume with a small droplet size in order to maximize your coverage on those wild onion plants, and you will get good control. Got a bunch of quackgrass in my fescue. Am I screwed? I believe you are. if it were me and I was dealing with large amounts of quackgrass, I tell you what, the first thing I would do is I would go out with a product. I would try Fusilade and see what it does. I do not know how well Fusilade will work on it. Fusilade is Fliazafop. If that didn't work, I would probably use Acclaim next. And if Acclaim didn't work, I would probably try Pylex. And if Pylex didn't work, then I would feel screwed. I may run like a Pylex Quinclorac mix. I honestly do not really have to deal with it in my neck of the woods. It's around me, but it's not really in the Knoxville area. So I typically don't have to deal with it, Felix. So I can't give you just a lot of answers on that. But I think Fliazafop would be a good place to start with your quackgrass. Just cancel my TruGreen contract. What mistakes do you see new home lawn owners make? Ty, keeping a schedule. It's all about timing. Everything is timing. So the biggest mistake I see people make is they think, oh, well, I'll get it down when the conditions are absolutely perfect. Very, very, very rarely are conditions absolutely perfect. So it's better to do something than nothing. Most of the time what I see happen is they wait for that perfect opportunity. It never arises. They miss their window. They get it down too late. Then they think it doesn't work. And then they're back calling TruGreen because TruGreen offered them their next application for free. Build a schedule, stick to your schedule, and within a day or two of your built out schedule, and get it done, and you'll get the results you want. And that's why you see companies like me or TruGreen or whoever are out there on a pretty regular basis, because we have to stick to that schedule. The schedule is the most important thing when it comes to tackling nature's issues. And then on top of that, the second biggest issue I see people run into is miscalculating your rates. It's very, very, very important you understand your rates. It's one of the most basic things as a lawn care operator to learn, understanding your rates, but it's also the most important thing that we do day in and day out is the math that is associated with your rates. When you use Tenacity when seeding, do you lay down the seed then spray? Mandy, yeah, that's usually how I do it. Is I'll put down the seed and then spray within as soon as I'm done. That's right. Yep. And check out the Lawn Care Nut because he's the man. No, I love Alan Hain. I love what he does, especially for homeowners. Truth be known to anybody that's watching right now, I'm not really geared for homeowners. There's lots of homeowners that are looking to take those next steps in their lawn, and that's usually where they find my channel. But most of my content is not tailored to homeowners. It's tailored to in-industry professionals, because the more I teach people in the industry, the more I end up learning. So anyway, that's typically where I'm geared. But what's interesting and what's really just amazing about the whole YouTube format in general is that there are so many homeowners that are so advanced in what they do in their home lawns that they make professional applicators like myself look like complete and total garbage. And it's amazing, and I'm so proud of it. And I'm so proud to have so many of them as subscribers and that, you know, participate in, you know, the Grass Factor community here, because it's one, it's refreshing, and two, it's amazing. It's breathtaking. Really, it's awesome. Lush Lawns threw out some RGS on his accounts. I think you'll be pleased with it. Hopefully you threw it down with a fertilizer, really maximize the efficiency of your fertilizer there. California, Peg Junction, California. I'm not a pro, but it looks like mini foxtail. If you're dealing with mini foxtail, I'll tell you what it is. It's little barley. And if it's in fescue, I honestly do not know how to tackle it. Again, I'm going to say Fliazafop would be a good bet. Tenacity may be a good bet. Pylex may be a good bet. This is going to be all cool season grass types. If it's a warm season, methylfuron methyl is going to be a good bet. Let's see here. Is Sedgehammer the only residential option for nut sedge? Ty, no, it is not. There's lots of options. Well, not necessarily lots of options for nut sedge. What turf type are you dealing with? And I can give you several options. Two that are going to be safe on most of your turf types would be sedgehammer, and then of course it would be dismiss, sulfentrazone. Both of those would be good options. Ester works better for onion or garlic. Yes, that is very true. If you're dealing with onion or garlic, ester-based 2,4-D herbicides are going to be awesome. The other one is Solero. Solero is going to be a good. There's Jim Beveridge there. Ty, use Solero. Solero is going to be interesting because it's actually safe for all turf types, I do believe. Kernel corn applied prodiamine at 1 pound per acre on 215. Should I do another app of another app to ensure adequate coverage through the year? And go with Dithipure Ronstar for fall control, the POA prob that I have. Colonel, here's what I would do. Since you've already got down 1 pound per acre, I would go ahead and get another app down. And you can do that now. You know, we're April 15th. It's been 60 days since your application. Go ahead, get it down. You don't necessarily have to switch it up, because even though you're going with Dithipure, it's still the same mode of action as prodiamine. Are you going to see any less Dithipure resistant POA? Probably not. It's probably going to be equal, that you're going to have same amounts of prodiamine resistant POA as you will Dithipure resistant POA. What I would do is, in combination with your fall pre-emergent, whichever one you choose to go with, is put it down with simazine. Simazine is going to enhance, it's going to broaden your spectrum of control. It's going to give you 2 different modes of action on preventing that POA. And then as you start to move into the dormant period, you know, we'll say 60, 90 days after your simazine application, put down atrazine, assuming your Bermuda is dormant. And again, that's going to be the same mode of action as your simazine, but it will extend that control through the winter there for your POA issue. Also, atrazine is going to have a little better post-emergent activity on POA than simazine would. In fact, atrazine used to be a great post-emergent herbicide for POA. It's not anymore. The trick to applying atrazine for POA control is to use very low volume. So you don't want to apply at 1 gallon per 1,000 square feet. You may want to apply at a ½ gallon per 1,000 square feet. So there we go. Jim Beveridge and his Solero, big fan. CTU Gangsta, it's in a small area, so contained. Just need to eliminate ASAP so it does not spread. That's right. Get it down. Here's one of the interesting things I'm seeing about little barley, and this was especially true in North Mississippi. When I worked in Memphis, I ran a route in North Mississippi. North Mississippi in particular had prodiamine-resistant little barley. Prodiamine just was not effective on little barley. Simazine was not effective on preventing little barley. I believe Spectacle will be, so you may want to change up your fall pre-emergent to include Spectacle to prevent your little barley from coming up. Mark Macchione was able to fertilize and lay down some RGS yesterday. Excited for some next-level results this year. Probably going to back off the Milo quite a bit this year. Mark, it's one of those things, you're basically getting the same effect from your RGS and fertilizer with enhanced root development activity taking place as you would with the Milorganite, except the difference is that you're doing it a heck of a lot cheaper, and you have full flexibility over your fertilizer analysis. Milo, you're locked into a single fertilizer analysis. When you're using a product like RGS to enhance the efficiency of your fertilizer, you can go out with any fertilizer you want, and it will help deliver that additional impact. Plus, it's also going to have that synergistic effect between the humic acid and the kelp to push the roots. Pushing roots into new foreign territory starts that root cycling effect. It's building a thicker layer of topsoil, and ultimately is generating a hardier turf grass that's dipping into new areas with untapped resources to be utilized. So it's a pretty neat deal there. Is there anything to get POA annua out of fescue? I would recommend ethifumicate, Prograss. would be a good thing to use on Poa annua on fescue. Nick Van Allen, one of the things to keep in mind is make sure it's Poa annua and not Poa trivialis. Poa trivialis is tough. I'll leave it at that. Popo and Son, what's up, my man? What is up? What is up? Ryan, my latest test results on killing POA. I had good results from ethifumicate. I am still very early into my POA trivialis trials. I will tell you the one thing I did try on POA trivialis that was not successful at all. Nothing was sulfentrazone, tenacity, and ethifumicate. While it did do a little bit of injury to the POA triv, it did not kill the POA triv. It did hurt very significantly the POA annua, and then the second application actually took it out. I would say that's probably the overkill in my deal. Let's see here. Yes, with the fur. Did you go to school? How long you been doing this? Dandy, I did go to school. I've been doing this for about 10 years. Man, my knowledge is endless. I don't know a lot. I'm trying as much as I can, and I'm constantly challenging myself to learn something new about turfgrass every day. And realistically, and when school was the beginning of things, my parents did such a great job of being able to put me in schools that constantly kept challenging me to learn more, and it really put the fire in me to continue learning. And then through my experience with turfgrass, it was actually and push the limits of what I've learned, and by getting out there and actually just experimenting with it. So, big props to him. I thank Ray as much as I can, because he's been a giant inspiration to me in continuing to learn as much as I can. Pizza Gut, this live stream is about turfgrass. Thank you. Thank you. Bascaran is an option, safe for cool season grass, real nuts. Stuff I use warm season grass only. Yep, that's right. Beth, from both of you. I have a pull behind sprayer. How do I go about calibrating it? David, I believe Pete did a pretty in-depth video on calibrating sprayers. Calibrating a pull behind sprayer, you're going to have to calculate your ground speed and time, how long it takes you to cover either 1,000 square feet or an acre. And then be able to consistently repeat that, and then measuring your actual output. And that will give volume per 1,000 square feet. And then usually your mix rates on your labels, you can calculate your mix rate based on your volume per 1,000 square feet. Julian Bergen, yes, I am looking screen. Checking in. Connor Ward, what's up, my man? How are you, sir? How are you, sir? There we go, Ray. Using as post-emergent, simazine and atrazine are your crop oil concentrate, methylated seed oil for enhanced post-emergent activity on your simazine and atrazine. Got a feeling Matt's your biggest fan too. That's right. I love what Connor's doing with his. His Kentucky bluegrass is just unbelievable. Lyron Leon, I have no idea who you are, but thank you so much. Thank you. I honestly mean that. I honestly mean that. Connor, I am your biggest fan because you are a hipster, and I love that. You can't help it. You're a hipster. I love it. I'm sorry. There's lots of things that are coming in over here that I'm trying to pay attention to at the same time. Lyron, I'm sorry. I do not speak Espanol. If anyone does speak Spanish, feel free to translate for me. I would love the assistance. I'm curious what he said. Here's hoping all the grass from the renovation that didn't survive the winter and the dead POA adds enough root material for OM to my soil. Colonel, I was actually having a talk about this the other day about how, in particular, when people do renovations with glyphosate, they talk about how their grass that next year has just unbelievable amounts of color. And the reason being, because of that, is the glyphosate, when it provides that instant thorough kill to all that vegetation that exists, it's depositing a ton of organic matter that hasn't quite been broken down yet back into the soil. And so through that course of the next growing season, all that plant material gets digested and all that nitrogen mineralization that takes place, like we're talking about our Milorganite. And so you get this consistent flush feeding from all that previous year's plant material that was deposited as OM and can then be used to break it down. So yes, all the dead POA and the grass that did not survive will deposit plenty of OM back into the soil to be reused. You're exactly right, Colonel Corn. Thank you, sir. Man, this is out of control. I don't know what to do. I'm getting nervous over here. I'm starting to sweat. Can you recommend a pre and post for tree seedlings on Bermuda? Thanks. Best of luck on your new venture. I appreciate that, Louise. Pre and post for tree seedlings. I really don't know of a pre that would work. For the seedling parts of it, Celsius would be a good option due to the dicamba content. Now there are, you can run like a 2,4-D that it's going to be hard on your Bermuda grass. You can also do a combination of like a 2,4-D fluroxypyr triclopyr. Anything that contains fluroxypyr is going to work really well on anything woody. So keep that in mind when you're checking your labels. Fluroxypyr is woody. Again, though, that is going to ding your Bermuda grass. Be prepared for it. The other one, as Brian Morales says right underneath that, is methylfuron methyl, MSM. Brian, I do not use MSM, and the reason is the risk. The risk. Okay, so when you're dealing with methylfuron methyl, it has such a low use rate. And what I mean by that is that you're talking about 1 ounce to the acre is killing serious amounts of weeds to the point where it's actually killing trees. I believe the recommended use rate on turf grass is a 1/2 ounce to the acre. That's 1/2 ounce of material. You're talking about less than a palmful of material, and it's taking out weeds. You're talking about 1 ounce to the acre, and the potential for it to kill a full-size oak tree is very, very high. 1 ounce of material. Think about how much 1 ounce of material weighs. It's like 28 grams, 30 grams basically is 1 ounce. And that is bringing down oak trees, and that's applied over an acre. At 2 ounces to the acre, now you're talking about almost having a sterilant effect. That is just, it is so powerful that I, in particular, do not like to use it because, Brian, I will tell you that I've made mistakes. I have killed oak trees with methylfuron methyl. I have smoked centipede with methylfuron methyl. It's very risky. It's very risky, and I would just prefer to not use MSM due to the risk that exists, that goes along with it. Preezy on the net, what is the best urine-resistant grass that the dogs won't kill? Probably seashore paspalum. It's the only thing I can think of that would take that salt and really just love it. How well do you like Gallery as a pre-em in the fall cool season rye turf grass? Andy, it would do a good job of preventing. It's probably not going to have the residual that you would expect to prevent those weeds the next year. Timing on that in the fall would be difficult. So your best bet would be to get out really early with your first application and get down Gallery and a post-emergent at the same time. That's likely going to be your best bet. Okay, I'm reading your private message there, Colonel Corn. I guess it's private. I don't know if it's not. I can't tell. Is that my drones? Get my drones right? I never rake my lawn. Can you mix RGS and Aerate? Yes, Frank, you can. Yeah, you can. You can. Barenberg sells a salt-resistant turf-type tall fescue for dog yards. There you go, Wayne. How about them apples? I did not know that. Raid burns off areas with a torch. There you go. Some people, kind of the old farmer's trick, especially like where I was in Memphis, dormant Bermuda grass. People would, put down a line of diesel fuel and burn that off, and it would burn all that off. And it's going to deposit a bunch of carbon back into the soil, burning that off. You're obviously depositing all kinds of goodness back into the soil. There's actually going to be a fair amount of potassium that gets recycled back into it as well. So, no-till renovation is actually a very excellent way to do it. I hear when using fast-acting lime to change the pH quickly, but this effect doesn't last as long. But does the calcium content not last as long as other forms as well, or just effect on the pH? That's a good question, Tyler. Okay, so the polycarboxylic acids, they're polycarboxylic acid stabilized calcium sources. So if you look at it, it still has a calcium carbonate content in these fast-acting limes. So yes, it will have a long-lasting effect on it, but it's probably not going to be as significant of an effect that it would be when you first apply it. So, if a soil test is calling for 1,000 pounds of lime to the acre, and you applied 12 pounds per 1,000 square feet, so we'll say 480 pounds per acre. Then while you may get that initial drop of a full point, that will back off as that polycarboxylic acid interaction there completes. Then you will have to make that second application to get down that full total 1,000 pounds of carbonate to buffer your soil pH. This is going to be my best answer. Lime not lasting means your calcium is being leached by rainfall. Coarse ground lime takes time to work, but lasts under high rainfall conditions. There you go. Ray, that is exactly what I like to do too. Use both fast and slow lime to correct soil pH. That's exactly the way to do it. Cat bird feeder, woohoo. God bless you too, ma'am. Hope everything's going well for you down there in Mississippi. I'm sure y'all been going through the strange weather that everyone else in Memphis has been. So hopefully your centipede is graining up and you're having yourself a good time with it. What pre-em do you recommend for fall timing? I did Dimension Fert in February, and I've got lots of dandelion breakthrough, not impressed. So if you're dealing mainly with dandelions, so first, so for dandelions, you would want to combine that Dimension with Defender. That is what is showing having the highest efficacy on your dandelions. So if you're, again, our DNAs are not going to be super effective on broadleaf weeds. Also, dandelions are biannuals. So that's another thing too, that if they're, flowering this year, they could be last year's dandelions too. So, you may not have a good pre-emergent timing for the dandelions is what I'm getting at. So what I would do in your particular case, if you're in particular worried about dandelion breakthrough, is I would run Dimension and Defender in February, especially while you're so cold up there in the Pacific Northwest. I think that's what I would do. Let's see here. So total calcium content needs to be the same, but the pH effect comes quicker and will meet goal after second application. So let's understand that right. If so, great explanation. Thanks, Prezy, on the net. Thank you. All right, y'all, I am running into the 45-minute mark. My wife is not here, so I'm listening to the kids in the other room, and I'm worried about them. So I am going to have to call this a night. I'll leave the chat open for y'all. Y'all can continue to carry on in the chat for as long as it stays open. I think it stays open for another 10 minutes after that. So anyway, y'all, I really, really, really appreciate everybody tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email at thegrassfactor@gmail.com. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So anyway, y'all, I really appreciate it. Y'all have a good evening. Take it easy.